Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from Group 5, so today we're gonna talk about Honda I-Vtec. Before we start, my name is Adam Akmal bin Osman.
Assalamualaikum. Hello. My name is Wan Amir Shakir Biwaramli.
Hi, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ismail Akib Kamal.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ahmad Zabdi Shamsul Bahari from Group 5.
So today, this slide will explain on what is I-Vtec, the introduction of it, the history behind it, the system operation, system layout, and the future for the I-Vtec. So let's start. So first, what is I-Vtec? Honda I-Vtec, known as Intelligent VTEC, is a system that combines VTEC's Honda VTC variable timing control with continuously variable camshaft facing system used on the exhaust camshaft of DOHC VTEC engine. The technology first appeared on Honda K-Series 4-cylinder engine family in 2001. VTEC controls of valve lift and valve duration are still limited to distinct low and high RPM profiles, but the exhaust camshaft is now capable of advancing between 25 and 50 degrees, depending on engine configuration. The history on I-Vtec is the Herculean task of developing a smarter engine began when Honda's research and development achieved the first milestone with revolution-modulated valve control of forcing mechanism. The system was developed in such a way that it could forcibly stop multiple valves when needed to optimize airflow and achieve a stable idling and increase smoothness for low to medium engine operation. From the REV using motorcycle engine, Honda developed a DOHC double overhead camshaft VTEC system for automobiles. To continue the VTEC technology for the needs of customers, Honda developed the I-Vtec system. The I represents the intelligent VTEC system. That is an innovation that is coupled with Honda latest 4-cylinder petrol engines.
The theory operation of system I-Vtec. I-Vtec stands for Intelligent Variable Valve Timing and Lift Electronic Control. That is a system that created by Honda to improve fuel consumption of Honda vehicle. The VTEC system used two camshaft profile and hydraulic selects between the two. Honda I-Vtec, the engine to effectively have multiple camshaft. To better understand Honda I-Vtec technology, let's first take a look at how a normal engine works. The valve let the air into the engine and let exhaust out of the engine. The camshaft controls the valve to open close the valve. The camshaft use rotating loops. Research shows that there is an important connection between the way the loops are ground on the camshaft and the way the engine behaves in the frame RPM range. Just keep in mind that it's not possible to run a normal engine this slowly, but let's just pretend for a second we could. The camshaft will ground when the piston begins moving downward to the intake stroke. The intake valve will open. It is great as long as we can run the engine at very low speed. The bad news is that when we increase the RPM, the configuration for the camshaft does not perform well. If the engine is running at 4000 RPM, the valves are opening and closing 2000 times every minute. What you need is the intake valve to open before the intake stroke. This way, the pistons start moving down in the intake stroke and the valve is open in the air freely into the cylinder during complete intake stroke.
So I will continue with the system, I-Vtec system. The latest and most sophisticated VIC development is I-Vtec, Intelligent VTEC, which combines features of all the various previous VTEC systems for even greater power, bandwidth, and cleaner emissions. With the latest I-Vtec setup, at low RPM, the timing of the intake valve is now staggered, and the loop is asymmetric, which creates a swirl effect within the combustion chambers. At high RPM, the VIC transition was previously into a high-lift, long-duration cam profile. The I-Vtec system utilizes Honda's proprietary VIC system and adds VIC uh, variable timing control, which allows for dynamic continuous intake valve timing and overlap control. The demanding aspect of fuel economy, ample torque, and clean emission can all be controlled and provided at a higher level with VTEC intake valve timing and lift control, and VIC valve overlap control combined. The I stands for intelligent. Honda introduced many new innovations in I-Vtec, but the most significant one is the addition of variable valve opening overlap mechanism to the VTEC system, named VIC, for variable timing control to current emission. Implementation is on the intake camshaft and allows the valve opening overlap between the intake and exhaust valve to be continuously varied during engine operation. So on this slide, this is the system layout of I-Vtec. The blue one is a VTC component, and the silver one is a VTEC components. So the diagrams explain the layout of the various components implementing I-Vtec. Intentionally edited the original diagram very slightly. The lines identify the VIC component are the faint and the orientation confusing. So this line, the red lines, those red lines, they identify the VIC actuator as well as the oil pressure solenoid valve, both attached to the intake camshaft sprocket. The VIC cam sensor is required by the ECU to determine the current timing of the intake camshaft. The VIC mechanism on the intake cam remains essentially the same as those in the current VTEC, the current DOHC VTEC engines, except for an implementation of VIECE or the mild cam. Okay, so next, advantages and disadvantages of I-Vtec. Advantages: class-leading power and fuel efficiency, high performance and low fuel consumption in a single engine. I-Vtec, high power plus low fuel consumption, which means more power but with low fuel. I-Vtec regulates the opening of air-fuel intake valve and exhaust valve in accordance with engine speeds. Disadvantages: I-Vtec engines are very expensive. That's true, it's very expensive. The mechanism of I-Vtec engine is very complicated, and lastly, it decreases the life of the engine because the power of the engine is increased, but the torque which is produced is not sufficient. Okay, that's all for me.
Hello, based on the question number, my opinion about I-Vtec future is from now onward, there will no doubt be countless attempts to second guess at what Honda will do to I-Vtec. There is all likelihood that Honda will implement I-Vtec on its performance engines. The most probably beneficiary will be the Integra and the Civic. For sure, in the future, it is possible that I-Vtec technology is still used, but it will not be the same way it used today. I-Vtec technology in the future may no longer use petrol, but will be upgraded to use electrical technology as we know it is Tesla automobile. Thank you.